worship. Would y'all scoot in just a little bit? Make room for more people. Thank you so much. Let's give thanks to the Lord. Give thanks to the Lord. His love endures forever. Give praise to the Lord. Beside him there's no other.
is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Do you believe that this morning? And I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. And there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Let's declare that this morning. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Let's sing out how powerful and faithful our God is. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. And you're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. He's the only one.
Amen. Nothing better than Jesus. yeah, once again, if you have the ability to squeeze in a little bit, we've still got some people needing some seats. God bless Texas and the pollen, right? We thank you, Lord, for freedom for the pollen. Y'all got to agree with me on that so that can go away next week. Hey, we're going to sing a new song this morning. It just talks about the power and the authority of the name of Jesus. Will y'all just join us when you can and just declare this with us? There's a name that levels mountains, carves out highways through the sea. I've seen its power unravel battles right in front of me. There's a faith that stands defiant. It sends Goliath to his knees. I've seen his praise unravel shackles right off my feet. That's the power. That's the power of your name. Just a mention makes a way. Giants fall and strongholds break, and there is healing. And that's the power that Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for the name of Jesus, for the authority that you've given us in that name, Lord, and the power that we carry with us because of what Jesus did for us. We love you, Lord. We love you, Lord. Thank you for loving on us this morning. And we'll love you right back in Jesus' name. You may be seated.
Good morning. How's everybody? There you go. Hey, we are just so glad that you're here, and we want to welcome you. Whether you come every single week, whether you're just visiting, or whether this is your first time, we prayed that you would come, and we are glad that you are here, and we want to connect with you. And one way that we can connect with you is through this QR code. So if you will take this QR code out of the seat back in front of you or in the chair, and you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to a page of links. And on those links, it'll tell you a little bit about us and some things that we have going on in the life of our church. And it'll also give you the opportunity to connect with us so we can learn a little bit about you, because we care about you and we're glad that you're here. But on that note, I do want to ask you to pay real close attention so that you can hear what I'm about to say. So, because there are some things that we want you to prayerfully consider. 2 things in particular, okay? The first thing is, if you look to your left and you look to your right, you can see that we are packed in at this service and at the 9:30 service as well. And so what we're asking is, we are asking for you guys to consider, to pray and consider possibly attending the 8 o'clock service where the coffee is better, or possibly attending the 12:30 service where the cookies are better. So don't tell the people in there that I said that. But so better coffee, better cookies, 8 o'clock or at the 12:30 service. And so, and in addition to that, here at Grace Fellowship, we really believe in attending one and serving one. So this is a great opportunity for you to attend one of those services and then get plugged in to either this service or the 9:30 service, where we are definitely needing some more support and some more help so that we can make room for more people. Because as we continue to grow, there is definitely more need. And on that note, as well, as we continue to grow and be for our communities, there is ample opportunity for us to make impact. We can make impact through serving, and also we can make impact through our generosity. So if you'd like to continue to partner with us through your generosity, you can give on that QR code in the Church Center app or in the giving boxes that are located around the room and in the lobby. Today, Pastor Chris is going to be wrapping up our marriage series on fighting the good fight. And I encourage you this morning to sit back, scan that QR code, follow along with the sermon notes today, and try to figure out what God is trying to teach you about your relationships.
I'm so excited you're here today. I'm excited to be here. My name's Chris. I'm the lead pastor here at Grace. And if I haven't met you, I would love to meet you and love for you to be a part of our Grace family. Here at Grace, there's a lot of exciting things that I'm excited about. I want to make sure you know about. This past Tuesday night, we had our Abide Night. It's a night of prayer and praise. And it was amazing. The bottom was full. It was probably our biggest Abide we've ever had. I think it is. But what's really cool is that God was moving. Yeah, we can celebrate that. But hold on. Wait, there's more. All right. Like we just celebrate who God was. There wasn't like someone who just said, hey, here's how you know Jesus and presented the gospel and here's how to respond. But God still drew 3 people to himself that night. 3 people prayed to receive Christ on Tuesday night, which is pretty amazing. I love seeing God work like that. Also, a week ago, we had our first women's prayer. I've got my iPad breaking on me up here. Don't worry. Technology's great. We had our first women's prayer breakfast for the first time in a long time. And over 100 women gathered last weekend for our prayer breakfast. Yes, that's awesome. Listen, that's why this is why that matters, is because prayer is the foundation of ministry. It's the foundation of the church. It's the way we connect with God and get to see God move in power. So I'm grateful for that work and what God is doing there. Also, this past week, we had the opportunity, someone reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be taking some supplies to those who've been affected by the fires in the Panhandle. Can the church help? And we were able to say yes. And here's why we're able to say yes. We didn't do a special collection or anything like that. We're able to say yes because we believe that's why God has put us here, to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And because of your generosity to give to the ministry and the mission of Grace, when needs arise, we can just say yes because that's who we are. And we believe that God will enable us to do what he calls us to do through your faithfulness and your obedience to give back to him through this church. So thank you. Thank you for enabling us to be who God put us here to be. And we're going to continue to help as there's opportunity. But I want to share that with you. I think too often you don't get to know what all God is doing. We are wrapping up this series called Fighting the Good Fight, where we've been talking about fighting the good fight for great relationships, great marriages. If you've missed any of it, you can go online and check it out. They're always online. I've heard God use this in many people's lives already. I've had people share with me how God's been using it in their marriage. And so I hope God has been speaking to you and working in your life. Today, what we're talking about is actually it's something that can apply to everyone, regardless of what stage of life you're in. It applies to all relationships, and regardless of whether you believe in God or not. First of all, if you're here and you're not sure what you believe or if you believe, man, I'm glad you're here. This is a great place for you to ask questions when you're ready. We invite that because ultimately, my hope is that you will experience Jesus the way that I have, a way that has forever changed my life. I think he'll change yours for the better as well. But regardless of what you believe about God, where you are in your faith journey, what we're going to talk about today, if you apply it to your life, it will make you better at life and make your life better, as we discover some truths that we find in Scripture that are true, regardless of where you are in your journey. Hey, let's pray, though, and ask God to speak to us through his word today. So, Father, will you move today in this place? Holy Spirit, will you speak? Will you speak to me and through me so we hear from you, and that we would respond in a way that honors you to your word and your truth today. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. You know, it doesn't take much to see how devastating a fire can be. The fires in the Panhandle have overtaken more than 1 million acres at this point, which is unreal. And they don't really know how it started yet. They're looking into it. But I can tell you this, when it first started, in those first few seconds that it started, no one could have imagined the devastation it would cause. Yeah, in a fire back in 2004 called the Bear Fire, it burned up over 10,000 acres. And it started with a man who was mowing his lawn, and the lawnmower blade hit a rock that created a spark. And over 10,000 acres later, they put out the flame. It's amazing how just such a tiny spark can create such incredible devastation. And I don't know, fire's not bad, right? We enjoy a good fire in the fireplace, good fire in the fire pit. I like a campfire. I really love a bonfire, right? I like fire. Okay, let me just be honest, confession, all right? I've enjoyed fire for a long time in my life. Fire is not a bad thing when it's in the right state, in a controlled context, but it can be devastating when uncontained and uncontrolled. Growing up, my brother and I would sneak out a box of matches out of the house because we liked to play with matches. And we'd take them up to our wooden fort, and we'd burn all kinds of things. I remember one time we thought we should try this out. We'll light the entire box of matches at the same time. And praise God that he protected us from our own stupidity. Because the damage it could have caused could have been the kind of damage that can't be undone. You know, in relationships today, many of us do this all the time with our words. We create the kind of damage that is difficult to ever be undone. And for many of us, we've experienced the pain of careless words, of harmful words that have created damage. And maybe it started with our parents, because so often it happens from people we love, people we trust, people who love us. And it was the words that they said that hurt and it cut deep, that you still held on to and hold on to even today. Maybe you're stupid, you're an idiot. You'll never amount to anything. You're not the school type of person. You're fat, you're ugly, no one really likes you. And what happens is it might be a parent or maybe, friends at school, not even real friends, let's be honest. Kids at school, you can take yourself back to that moment when that kid said that thing and it stuck with you. And so often it's the words that were said that we spend so much of our lives either identifying ourselves with what they said or spend our lives trying to prove what they said was wrong. But either way, they have incredible control on our lives because they've done incredible amount of damage. And too often we carry this into our marriages. And in moments of anger and frustration, words begin to spew. We let things fly and we begin to attack the character and the identity of the other person. And sometimes it's not even when we're mad. Sometimes we're just saying something, we're just kidding. But the damage that it creates isn't a joke at all. See, our words can build up our relationship or it can burn it down. And many marriages today are burning down because we've lit fires of careless words. In the midst of a disagreement, in the midst of the tension, our voice starts raising and we lose control of what we're saying. And we start throwing matches at the other person's character, at the other person's identity. And we stop attacking the real problem. We stop fighting the real enemy because we begin to think the other person's the enemy. We have a real enemy. It's the devil. His desire is to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants nothing more than to destroy your marriage and your relationships. But too often we forget who the real enemy is. We begin shooting flaming arrows at the person that we once said we loved. Because here's what I know. Nobody gets married because they go, man, I love good conflict. And we don't get along very well, so let's get married. That'll be fun. But somehow we get to a place where we start treating the other person like they're the enemy. And we light the relationship on fire, and when the smoke clears, we're left with the damage that we have to sort through. A lot of damage that takes a long time to undo. See, fire can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing depending on the context that it's in, depending on whether it's controlled or not. And the same thing is true with our words. They can bring life to our relationships or they can bring death to our relationships depending on how we use them. But you know what? This is what counselors tell us today. They tell us that your words matter. Guess what? They didn't discover that. God told us that our words matter, that our words can bring life, that our words can bring death. In fact, he used a man named James to tell us how important the words we use matter. James was Jesus' brother. He didn't believe in Jesus until he saw Jesus raised from the dead, which is a pretty good start. And he put his faith in Jesus to save him, and God used James to lead the early church in Jerusalem and to write a letter called James that talks about how our faith should change the way we live. And in James chapter 3, he talks about our words. In verse 3, it says, we can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. He says, and a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. The strong rudder can push against the wind. He says, in the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches. It has a lot of strength and control. But a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. He says, among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness corrupting your entire body. It can consume your entire life. He says it can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. It is one of the greatest tools the enemy uses to destroy your relationships. He says, people can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. He says sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who've been made in the image of God. And on one hand, it praises the Creator, but then it turns around and curses the creation. He says, so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. He says, how does this make sense? And he goes on and says, does spring water bubble out both fresh water and bitter water? The obvious answer is no, that doesn't make sense. He says, does a fig tree produce olives or a grapevine produce figs? Of course not. He says, no. And you can't draw fresh water from a salty spring. He says, man, your tongue has so much power to determine the direction and quality of your life. It can build others up. It can praise God, but it can also hurt others and destroy others and set your entire life on fire. There's three things that we see that he describes about the tongue. Is for one, it determines the direction of your life. It'll determine the direction of your life and your relationships. That just like a huge ship is steered by this tiny rudder, that your life is steered by the words that you speak. It can determine the direction. Not only that it can be destructive when uncontrolled. It can set an entire forest on fire. It sets your entire life on fire when out of control. And he says it's duplicitous. And some of you are going, what does duplicitous mean? I had to look it up, but I needed another D to go with the alliteration here. It means two-faced. It's hypocritical. Right? It praises God on one hand and then curses his creation on the other. It says it doesn't make sense. He says, listen, it doesn't make sense like trying to get grapes from a fig tree. That's not what it produces. It says what comes from your mouth should help other people know who you are and who you are in Christ. The fruit of your life, the fruit of your mouth. In fact, Jesus uses the same illustration when he's talking to a group of people. There was a guy named Luke who was a doctor. He recorded an eyewitness account of Jesus' life, and God had him capture what Jesus said. When he's talking about the way we talk, look what he says. He says, a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. A tree is identified by its fruit. What it produces will tell you what kind of tree it is. He says, just like the tree shows you what it is through its fruit. He says, that's the way it should be in your life. He goes on and says, figs are never gathered from thorn bushes, and grapes are not picked from bramble bushes. And he says, a good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart. An evil person produces evil things from the treasures of an evil heart. And you're going, okay, this is about our heart. I thought this was about our words. Well, check this out. He says, what you say flows from what is in your heart. Listen, this is why God cares about what we say. This is why this is so important. God cares about our heart, our words, because our words reveal the condition of our hearts. What comes out of your mouth is flowing from your heart. And the heart is the foundation of who we are. It's our thoughts, our intentions, our will. It's our soul. And God cares about our words because he cares about our hearts. In fact, when it comes to putting our faith in Jesus, these two are connected. God used Paul in his letter to the Romans to explain it this way in Romans 10. That if we declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. They go together. And he says, here's why. Because it's with your heart that you believe, your entire being, the seat of your identity with your heart is where you believe and are justified. And it's with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. It is how you go public with your faith. You publicly declare your faith with your mouth. The two come together. That from the mouth should reveal the condition of the heart. Listen, this is why when we baptize people, we ask them before we baptize them, hey, have you put your faith in Jesus to save you? It's because their public confession of faith goes with the change of heart. Baptism is a public testimony of faith. And so we want people to have this opportunity to publicly profess their faith. See, words of faith flow from a heart of faith. So when your heart changes, it should change the way you speak. It should change the words that come out of your mouth. God tells us this in several places. Another place he talks about this. He uses a guy named Paul. Paul's life, he wrote Romans, but Paul's life was radically changed by Jesus. He hated Christians, tried to wipe them out, then became one when he experienced Jesus for himself. God used him to write much of the New Testament scriptures. And in his letter to the Ephesians, to the Christians in Ephesus, he explains how your faith should change every aspect of your life. And he says this about your words. He says, don't use foul or abusive language. It doesn't get more clear than that. Say the blue word with me here. Let everything, let's try it again. Let everything you say be good and helpful so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. Our words matter, because they reveal the condition of our heart, and God cares about our hearts. And when our heart changes, it should change the words we speak, because our hearts impact the words that come out of our mouths. And what we say impacts our relationships. So if we are going to build great marriages and great relationships, we must elevate the way we communicate. We've got to change the way we talk. We got to change the way we communicate. And I feel like what he's telling us that our heart matters, then we must start with the heart. If we're going to elevate the way we communicate, we must start with the heart. It starts with a heart change. If you go to the doctor with a high fever and you go, I just can't get this high fever under control. And he goes, oh, just go home and take a bunch of Advil. It'll be fine. What are you going to do? You're going to go to another doctor. Why? Because all he did was treat the symptom. He didn't try to figure out what the root of the problem was. He didn't fix the root of the issue. Listen, if we are going to change the issue and what we say, we've got to start with the heart, because that's where the root problem is. Listen, that's why Jesus came to earth, is to change our heart, to give us a new heart. And here's why: because we all sin. Our sin broke our relationship with God. It's the only relationship that can satisfy the deepest needs of our soul. And there's nothing we could do about it. So God did something for us. He sent Jesus to the earth. He lived a perfect life. He didn't sin, and then he died on the cross. They hung him for claiming to be the one who came to save mankind. They put him in a grave. 3 days later, he rose from the grave and did what no one else could do on their own. He defeated the grave by rising again. Here's why he did this: so that anyone who would admit that they've sinned, that our sin has created brokenness in our lives, admit that we've done things our own way instead of God's way, believe that what Jesus did for us on the cross was enough, and it was, and that he rose from the grave. And you'd come to a place where you surrender and say, I'm done trying to live my life my way. I want to follow God. I want him to change my life and help me follow him. And we invite him to take control of our lives. We surrender to him. He gives us a new life and a new heart. And he begins to change us from the inside out. See, salvation is in the moment we believe. It's by grace through faith that we are saved. But the transformation takes time. It takes time, and it takes intention. I love the way God used Paul to say it to the Romans in Romans 12. He says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He says, be transformed by letting God change the way you think. Don't copy the customs and behaviors. You know why he says that? Because we so often look around and go, well, it's just the way it is in our culture. He doesn't understand. It's just the way it is. This is just normal. This is our new normal, you know. He doesn't get it. He's going, no, this is once for all time. Stop copying the behaviors and customs of the world. They're not your standard. Instead, let God transform you. And he says, then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, what he wants you to do in your life, his good and pleasing and perfect will. See, we've got to allow God to change the way we think by changing what we put into our mind. It's kind of like this candy machine right here. If I were to get a coin and put a coin in there and try to get a white gumball, what's the chances I get a white gumball? Not good. Not good at all. You know why? Because I filled it up with too many red gumballs. What I put in determines the chances of what I get out. And the same is true with our lives. We keep pouring all sorts of junk into our lives and into our minds, and we're hoping to get something else out. It doesn't make sense. If we're going to let God change the way we think, we've got to change what we put into our minds, because what we put into our minds affects the way we think. It affects our heart. It affects what comes out of our mouths. What we watch, what we listen to, where we go, the environments that we set ourselves in. That we intentionally put ourselves in environments where we can be filled up with the things of God and the truth of God, so that when life happens, God's truth comes out. You got to allow God to transform the way you think, because what we put into our mind impacts our heart. And if we're going to elevate the way we communicate, it starts with the hearts. Then in James chapter 1, he actually gives us some very practical things that we can do to continue to elevate the way we communicate. Look at it with me in James 1, verse 19. It says, understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And he says, human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. 3 very practical things. First of all, you've got to learn to be quick to listen, or lean in to listen. Be eager to listen. We all know there's a difference between listening and hearing, right? Someone asks you, how'd church go today? Oh, it was great. What did he talk about today? Sin is bad. Jesus is good. Praise God. We heard him, but did we lean in to listen? Did we listen with the intention of understanding? See, in our relationships, do we lean in to listen? One of the ways we do that is that we exercise empathy. See, empathy isn't feeling bad for someone. It's trying to understand the way someone sees something. I think about it like this. When I watch golf on TV, often they'll get behind their golf ball. And yes, I watch golf on TV. It provides a great nap. But they'll get behind their golf ball, and they'll look at the putt from their golf ball towards the cup. And then what they'll do, what will they do? They walk around to the other side of the cup, don't they? To gain another perspective. To try to see, is there something that I can't see from my perspective? Is there something that I'm not seeing that's going to change the way this ball rolls? And see, for many of us, we've got to learn to take the long walk around to the other side of the cup and try to see it from another perspective. Lean in with the intention of trying to understand and empathize and see it from their side and from their viewpoint. See, if we're going to lean in to listen, we got to exercise empathy. We've got to actively listen. Listen, give feedback, ask questions. Take an interest in what they're saying. If you don't understand, just ask. All right, you said this. What do you mean by that? Oh, hey, now this is what I'm hearing. This is what I heard you say. Is that what you mean? Like, is that what you mean by that? That you actively listen. And here's why. Because when you actively listen, you're not just saying what you have to say is important. What you're saying is, I value you, so I value what you have to say. And then you've got to remove distractions. I had a pastor one time who got on to me because he was talking to me, and my phone kept buzzing, and so I kept looking at it. And it wasn't my fault, it was my phone's fault. It kept buzzing, all right? He finally said, stop. It's like, what? I didn't even know I was doing it. He says, stop looking at your phone. That's rude. And every time you do that, you're putting everyone else on pause. What you're saying unintentionally is what's going on out there is way more important than trying to be present with you right here. See, we probably should have some no phone zones. We probably should remind ourselves that our phone doesn't own us, we own the phone. And we know where the power button is. We got to remove distractions if we're going to lean in to listen and elevate the way we communicate. Proverbs actually talks a lot about listening and the importance of listening. Proverbs is often referred to as the book of wisdom. In Proverbs 18, it says this, unfriendly people care only about themselves. They lash out at common sense. They don't listen because they only care about themselves. They're not leaning in. They're not eager to listen. They're not exercising empathy. They're not actively listening because they only care about themselves. They're just ready for their turn to talk. He also says fools have no interest in understanding. They're not trying to learn anything. They only want to air their own opinions. They understand that there's only two ways to think, their way and the wrong way. He says that's a fool. And then he says this in verse 13, that spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. We've got to elevate the way we communicate by choosing to lean in to listen. He says, be quick to listen and be slow to speak. We've got to learn to weigh our words. Our words matter. Our words carry weight. And we know that the words that we say can be so heavy they can crush the ones that we love. In Proverbs 18, verse 21, he tells us the tongue. Go back to 18, 21. There we go. The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. The tongue can bring life or death to your relationships. And what you are experiencing will tell you what's coming out of it. We've got to learn to weigh our words. Our words matter. I've been careless with my words in my life. I used to pick at my brother. I was very good at using my words to make people laugh, even if it hurt someone in the process. I had that zinger, that one line. Right? I could embarrass someone really quickly with my words. I would pick at my older brother until he threw the first punch, and I'd be like, I didn't start it. He threw the first punch. I hurt a lot of relationships with my words. There was a song that came out in college that I thought was funny because it expressed my struggle with this. The lyrics said, my stupid mouth has got me in trouble. I said too much again to a date over dinner yesterday. I could see she was offended. I said, well, anyway, just dying for subject change. Oh, another social tragedy. Score one more for me. How could I forget? Mama said, think before speaking. No filter in my head. Oh, what's a boy to do? And he goes on to describe in this song how his words killed relationships. Our words matter because they carry weight. Before we say it, we've got to weigh it. In Proverbs 8:15 said it this way, that the heart of the righteous, those whose hearts are right with God, weighs its answers. It weighs it before they say it. But the mouth of the wicked gushes evil. They're just a flamethrower setting things on fire. We've got to learn to weigh it before we say it. Just ask, does it honor God? Does this build others up? Does this encourage other people? What's my intent of saying this in the first place? Is it to be right? Is it helpful? Is it to hurt them back? Or is it to help to find peace? See, as we weigh our words, we should follow the 3 T's. One, is it true? That you weigh it against God's truth. Is this true? Is what I'm about to say about them, what I'm going to say to them, am I saying something that is a false identity about that person? This would eliminate phrases like always and never, right? It's terrible communication. You always do that. You never do that. It's horrible because it's not true. It would eliminate the way we use our words if we just measure it against God's truth. And we need to pay attention to our tone. Tone matters. It absolutely matters. In fact, when you study communication, the words you actually speak is only 10 to 15% of what a person actually hears. Tone and body language is, depending on the study, 35 to 55%. Tone matters. And men, listen, in our marriages, God tells us in Colossians 3, never be harsh with your wife. And ladies, when it comes to a marriage, one of the ways that men understand love is through respect. And tone can be the difference between them feeling respected or disrespected. Tone matters. And then there's timing. Timing matters too. My dad always said, listen, timing matters, just ask roadkill, all right? It absolutely matters. It always matters. Because the right word said at the wrong time, it will always land wrong. We got to learn to weigh our words, and we got to choose to give more grace. If we're going to elevate the way we communicate, we've got to choose to give more grace. Why? He says, because the human anger doesn't produce the righteousness God desires. There's another translation that actually says human anger is not a legitimate tool to promote God's righteous purposes. It's not beneficial. So often we're like, well, Jesus got mad. Totally different, guys. Because at the root of our anger, majority of the time, is our own pride and our own selfishness. We talked about that last week. In the book of James where it says, what's causing the conflict among you? He goes, it's you. It's your pride, it's your selfishness. If you missed it, go check it out from last week. It's really fun. But at the root of it, it's our own selfishness and our own pride. We get offended, so we respond with anger instead of grace. And yet God tells us through Paul in Colossians 4, let your conversations be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. So that your words will be beneficial to everyone. I cook eggs for my boys in the morning, and there's been times I forgot to put salt and pepper on them until afterwards, and I was like, oops. You want to know what? They're not real excited about eating the eggs when there's no salt on them. Because they're not very palatable. And the reality is that when we use words that aren't full of grace, they're not received the way they should be. They don't have the impact that they should have. And you may go, well, I'm just blunt. That's just the way I am. That's the way God made me. No, it's not. That's what you do. That's not who you are. Maybe we should allow who we are in Christ change what we do. And that our words would be full of grace because God has extended incredible grace to us. And we extend grace not because the other person deserves it, but because God gave us grace when we didn't deserve it. We've got to learn to give more grace. Grace gives the benefit of the doubt to the other person and makes generous excuses for another person's faults. It cares way more about the relationship than it does about being right. We got to choose to give more grace. If we're going to build great marriages and great relationships, we must elevate the way we communicate. It starts with the heart. For some of us, it's time for us to stop looking at the other person and saying, well, they're the problem, and saying, God, will you show me in my heart what needs to change? Will you start with me? Will you start with my heart? For some, we've got to become better listeners by learning to lean in to listen, to seek to understand before we insist on being understood. And that we would weigh our words before we say them because we understand the weight that they have. And then in all that we say, we would give more grace. If we're going to elevate the way we communicate, it starts with the heart. Lean in to listen, weigh your words, give more grace. It'll change the way you interact. It'll change the quality and direction of all your relationships. Maybe for you today, you need to take the first step of putting your faith in Jesus. Let him change your heart. It is a free gift that is available to anyone who admit that you've sinned. We all have. You believe Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty of your sin and that he rose from the grave? And you come to a place where you go, I'm done doing it my way. I want to trust you with my life. Today, you can make that decision. There's no reason to wait. I'm going to lead you in a prayer as we close today. The prayer itself doesn't save you. What saves you is you being honest with God. But the prayer is a way of marking that decision and vocalizing that decision today. So today, as we close, we bow your heads and close your eyes. And if you would say, man, I need to put my faith in Jesus, tell him something like this. God, I know that I've sinned. I believe Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty of my sin, and that he rose from the grave. I don't have it all figured out, but I know I need you. So today I'm asking you to save me, to forgive me. Will you fill me with your Holy Spirit and change me from the inside out? And help me know you and follow you for the rest of my life. God, thank you for loving us. Thank you for saving us. And God, my prayer is all of us who put our faith in you, that we would allow your grace that we've experienced to change the words we say, to elevate the way we communicate, that others would experience your love and your grace through our words. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
You know, one thing I've loved about this series is that while it is a marriage series, but I think that all of these things that we're learning are applicable to all of our relationships, specifically even with communication. So speaking in truth with grace, minding your tone, and speaking about things at the right time, those are all things that are easy to forget, especially when you have feelings behind the things that you're trying to communicate. And so I even have found myself, as I've been reflecting on this message, thinking that I do a pretty good job of that when I'm parenting and when I'm trying to teach my kids how I want them to communicate with me. You know, I tell my teenage daughter all the time, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it to me and when you say it to me. But I don't always do a great job with how I communicate with others. So that's a great message for me and for all of us to take to heart and just apply to all of the relationships in our life. So before you go, there's a few things that I want to put you guys in the loop about. So first up is spring break. So spring break is coming up. I know we are all super excited to spend the entire week locked in our house with all of our children. We're all celebrating that. And to celebrate that with you, we are having spring break bounce here. So here on the 13th from 10 to 2, you can bring your kids so that they can jump in a bunch of bounce houses and just have fun and get wore out so that they can take a nap afterwards. It's our gift to you, is a nap. But I will say you must come with them. You cannot drop them in the parking lot and leave, because we will find you. We will figure out who your kids are and we will come bring them back home to you. So bring your kids to that. That's going to be something fun happening over spring break. Also, save the date, because we are having a marriage conference on April the 12th and April the 13th. So registration for that and more information is going to be available next weekend, but we wanted you to be able to save the date now. As you guys leave today, there's going to be prayer partners at the front, and we encourage you to come and pray with them, because we want to partner with you through the things that you're going through in your life. So make sure that you utilize our prayer partners as you leave. And also, we have new merch out in the lobby, so check that out on your way out. Have a great week.